starts early. It works hard. It stays focused. It keeps moving. It stands ready. And it carries the weight. Strong coffee for a strong nation.
Forgot to turn my mic back up. Welcome, everybody, back to Beyond the Possible with myself and James of Salsido Paranormal. He is back again. Number 9 is in the house. There we go. He got his blindfold on now. He's ready to roll now.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, glad to be here. And yeah, that's I'm glad I've been able to make it to all of them so far.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll get Carl in the Rumble. And so we got Philly G over on and Brother Dave's Waffle House, our guaranteed lurker. Appreciate him being over there. Appreciate y'all listening. We're gonna hopefully have a good show for you today. Our guest might be running a little behind, but hopefully she'll be able to make it. But it's gonna be awesome. Thank you, Philly G, for subscribing. We're back here every Sunday at 7 Central Time. We talking all kinds of, anything that is possible, really. Is what the main channel is about, and then we all kinds of with the paranormal and ghost stories. James has numerous ones he's read and he's lived through, and I've had a few myself, so we get to tell these stories and good stuff like that. At least today, no, I don't have no mask turned sideways like I did Wednesday. Hopefully that
Oh
won't
no.
happen again. Looks like I thought my boomerang was turned sideways there for a second.
Uh-oh.
But
They moving on you there, Ricky?
the mask had moved. I don't know if I got bumped. Merlin said he thought he seen it during the show. I scrolled back, I didn't see it, so I don't know if it got bumped or there's some disturbance there between different masks. I don't know.
Well, it's hard
What's
when you have cats, 'cause cats.
yeah. They could come up there and hit the chair and turn stuff, and yeah. I'm lucky they don't tear up more stuff than they really do. They're pretty
Oh,
good.
I've seen some videos of them just destroying rooms. It's yeah. I'm lucky. I don't have that either.
Oh yeah, I mean mine pretty good. I can have stuff on the shelf for the most part. They did knock a couple things off, um, and it's key every once in a while, especially if I haven't if there's no food in the bowl, they might start
Oh yeah.
wrecking stuff. But other than that,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they were hungry this morning because I was out late last night with the fights and which was great. I got to do my commentating and best seat in the house. It was fun.
That's good. But Ricky, the cats don't care about your damn fights. I mean, come on now. You're supposed to be back there way earlier than you were.
Oh
You know?
yeah. We're supposed to. Carl was talking about he's counting 22. Yeah, you got to keep up with the mask here. They move around. Um, I move around. They might be moving themselves around some days, but yeah, this one here I got Mr. Duffy sent in. It's kind of like a. Let's see if we can. I was zooming in for everybody. Everybody loves the mask. Let's see if I can get my camera thing to load up. And it's kind of like a Native American type mask, or maybe like Aztec, Mayan style. Let's see if we can get this thing to move. Oops, wrong direction. And we'll do some zooming. The beauty of this camera here. Get to zoom in on my face here for a second. We don't need none of that. Let's zoom in on the mask here. Yeah, it's pretty neat looking. A little different. It's cool to have more and more. So Get it all the way back out, dude. Yep. Oh, zoom too far. Zoom too far. Just in the. Try to like move it around because trying to get her that right little spot where I don't see none of the sheetrock.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was, and he actually gave me a couple. Two little crystals right here were pretty cool,
Nice.
and pretty cool, awesome, awesome. Appreciate him. He came on, and we go back and see Mr. Duffy's Bigfoot special. It was really good. He very interesting. Um, Very interesting talks and tales of Bigfoot and what he's dealt with and near his home, and pretty wild. It was a pretty wild day on a guest like that. We had a good one last week with Merlin.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so. Yep.
Oh, Mr.
Um,
Duffy, you started talking about him. He appears. I was talking good about you, and then you
yep.
appear, Mr. Duffy. But yeah, Merlin last week was really really interesting. Good, looking forward to bringing him back on soon, and it's gonna be good. iHandy's up in the Rumble chat. I see iHandy here. Appreciate you being here. Said we got hopefully having a guest showing up soon. We'll see how it goes. If not, um, we'll let her rip, and we'll keep on keeping. We're gonna keep on keeping on no matter what. Um,
Oh yeah.
you know, like I said again, I appreciate all y'all being here, and I've got in the in Kick, got Matt's Confusion in Kick. I actually got the chat pulled up on my restream today, so appreciate you being here, and for everybody over at Kick. So that's awesome. We're on Kick, we're on D Live, we're on Twitter, we're Rumble, YouTube, X. We're trying to put it out as many places we can. Let everybody see as much stuff as we can. A good time. Got to become a premium creator on Rumble, so
Yeah. I've had people tell me I need to put my shows on Rumble, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
nice.
There's no video to them. It's just black screen. So, but maybe eventually I'll remember one of these times.
Sounds good, Philly G. I was gonna say let me double check. Let me make sure I got my email right in there. I was gonna say look in the description. You got somebody who would be you might think would be interested in coming on the show. I'm always looking for new people, and then James is always looking for new people to talk to. The email is wrong. I don't know how I can get that. Why does it keep
Hmm.
messing up? Stupid thing. Glad I looked at it though.
But yeah, for as for me, it's really simple. It's just Salsido Paranormal at gmail.com if you ever want to submit stories, true stories for me to read on my show. Or again, join me on Discord. Or here. It's either way. It's fine by me.
Yeah, I dropped it in the chat. So. Oh yeah, for sure. Shout out to Sweets. I'm sure
Hmm.
she'll be lurking, coming in chatting. Uh, she always takes care of our links. She's always sharing all our posts, and for everybody in the whole our extended family of
Yeah.
podcasters and streamers, and um, she's awesome. What's up, Matt Sal? Yeah, we're hoping to have a really good show tonight. Like I said, I guess Jen's running a little behind, but yeah, having Jen come on here. The Arcane Observer is gonna be our special guest. Has amazing mind for this kind of stuff and everything, and we're looking forward. Um, any while we're waiting, James, do you have any new Um,
Oh, any new weirdness?
any new weirdness or any stories that you've heard that would everybody would like to hear?
I'm just trying to think of what I've had. I mean, I've had a couple more of those weird uh, alternate parallel universe dreams. Um, I've had those. I've had my. I still get that like the tapping every so often of just the top of my blinds, my vertical blinds, the ones behind me actually. Um, just one tap, then nothing for several minutes, and then another tap. And I tried asking for it to stop because when I have nothing playing, it's kind of annoying sometimes, and it didn't do anything. So I don't know if that means it's an actual it's not anything paranormal, and if it's just something with the environment that's causing them to make that sound, or if it just means whoever's there is just not interested in stopping. I'm not sure. It's always hard to know with these things, especially when it's such a small thing and it's so high up that I can't easily reach up there. I'm a short one here, 5'2" basically, and so I can't reach the top of those blinds hardly at all. So, but yeah, I've had that recently, and yeah, not too much else. Just usual bumps and bangs around here and there, and so nothing major, no major activity. But yeah, I'm blanking on anything that I found recently as far as stories that I've read on my shows that are really sticking out. But it's so hard because I read so many. I find so many usually. Um, Most weeks I am reading through at least 40 or 50 of these stories per week as far as what I'm looking at, and then I save like 36 of them each week to read on shows. So there's a lot of as with you in different ways. There's a lot of information going through this brain that just does not always stick.
No, it is hard, when you especially trying to put everything together and everything. It really is. It's hard um, to put stuff together and just find information, and I slowly find more and more fun stuff and stuff like that. For like doing shorts and what did I find the other day was fun. Um, oh, it was the Abertac. Have you heard of the Abertac?
I don't think so.
It's Ireland's original vampire,
Okay.
and yeah, it was interesting. I seen something like that, and it might be actually from um, like uh, the whole some of the stories and everything that actually came across, and uh, maybe the books and stuff like that. Some of the books came out there, so it's neat. It was let's see, let me pull it up. Uppertack is a 5th century Irish legend. Yeah, predating. So to the all the way back to the 5th century. That's magic. Of course, it's predating Bram Stoker's Dracula, and
Right.
he was known as a cruel, magical chieftain and county dare. They say he was killed multiple times, but rose from the grave to feed on his subjects' blood. And they finally stopped him by burying him upside down beneath a thorn bush. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I seen him talking about that on a video and stuff, and I was like, man, that's pretty neat. Oops.
Yeah, there's a lot around the world regarding vampirism as far as just different entities or creatures that would do different things and it's a very old concept. Um, and I'm glad that I've never had any experience with any of that because no thank you.
Yeah, and I watched man. I wish I remember which one it was. I like to go back and watch the story, listen to the story again, because I used to drive around on my. Sometimes I'd had to get on the front end loader and ride around. I just listen to podcasts and stuff, and There was one that it was guys that it was out there in the desert. Of course, lots of stuff happens in the desert, and out there in Nevada and
Oh yeah.
all, and lots of strange folks out there. Uh,
Yeah. One in particular is just. I mean, I don't know about him.
yeah,
Kidding.
yeah. But yeah, and it was talking about there was like a circus out there, and they went out there and come to find out that circus had it was just vampires and stuff. That was who was at the circus, and it was a wild tale, and they barely even made us escape with their lives and stuff.
Mm.
Um, and like Carl said, that's interesting. Yeah, and he said adrenochrome's consumption's been going on for millennia. Yeah, they've been, it's been, lots of cultures, took, consuming blood to help, maybe rejuvenate themselves and all kinds of stuff, and like different thought processes on it, and of course, then you got the vampires, like just, like you hear people talk about like the energy vampires that just can just suck your energy out,
Yeah, I do
um,
believe in that. Maybe even more so now, at least nowadays, more so than anything else that's been out there. I mean, except you do hear about like in some remote places, the older original types of vampires may still exist, but as far as what people encounter now, I think a lot of it probably is just various kinds of energy, emotional, just that psychic kind of vampire, that kind of stuff. I think is very real.
Matt Sal said he liked the one story he told about the hunter that encountered a time-stopping alien that gave him a pill that got healed,
Hmm.
that healed him.
Yeah, that's wild. I don't remember that one, but um, yeah, that's there's a lot of being out in nature. It's there's a lot out there that's more than just regular animals. There's all kinds of encounters people have, um, and I do wonder, excuse me, how often are the things that people consider to be aliens? How often are they just nature entities, nature spirits that people have forgotten about or never people now have never heard of, and are having encounters with them, and the only thing they can think of because it's what they see on TV and in media and stuff is aliens.
Oh, he said I told it. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, my brain is sideways, Matt Sal. I remember. And Carl was like, he said most of the alt media are energy vampires. They may never see you in person, but that doesn't stop them from wasting your most valuable time and mental energy.
That's yeah. That's I don't pay attention to most media. I really don't.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of it. I mean, that and this, a lot of media is trying to push you um, to a negative mindset, and it
Hmm.
does. It takes your joy. It takes your. It does. It takes your time away. You're using that your precious time to watch this. That's robbing you of your joy. Uh, Sometimes you gotta detach and turn that stuff off because that's a lot of them are you're absolutely trying to suck your energy and suck your put yourself in a depressive state. And it,
Yep.
all across the board. Like, well, not give you hope, not give you anything. It's stuff we had to be careful.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, again, they want to get people mad at each other. That's the other thing, and that extends that process more because you're focusing on being mad at someone else for not thinking the way you do, and it goes all the way down the chain to everybody.
hmm I think there was for sure. There was more of a time where we could do. More people would, you know, kind of agree to disagree, and then we could actually talk a lot more. But now, it really is. Everybody is being compartmentalized and blocked in the. If you're here, um, if you are a UFO person, then you got to stay. You got to stay with your UFO people, or not, or
Yes.
like especially political wise, it's rampant. But even on alternative stuff, it's wild to see. That.
With UFOs, there's people and there's similar situations with cryptids too, creatures. But UFOs, there's people that they all they want to think about or hear about are the mechanical nuts and bolts craft.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you listen to or look at some of the accounts of people's experiences, they see lights that turn into the solid craft, or the other way around, a solid craft made of metal, looks like it's made of metal, that turns into light. So if there's things out there capable of doing that, then how can we focus on just one aspect? I think, and there are these boxes within the paranormal, within all the anomalous stuff that I think in some cases it's preference for some people based on maybe their experiences or just they're trying to be rational about all this when maybe there is nothing rational about all this. That's what I always wonder is, we try to be logical when it comes to explaining all this, but is there really logic in it? Same with Bigfoot. There's two huge camps in that. There's people that think that Bigfoot is just a biological, regular uh, ape or some kind of ape that hasn't been found yet. Never
Mm-hmm.
mind that where they're seen, there's not enough. There's supposedly not enough out there for them to exist on, or to have a breeding population. They're still seen out there. Um, and then there's others that think that it could be a biological being that has abilities, or it may not be biological. So there's camps in everything,
Mm-hmm.
or groups and boxes in every category here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mr. Duffy said he heard a recent story about Sasquatch turning into a human to approach someone. So
Mm,
and shape shifting there.
yeah.
It, yeah, it's all over the place, and um, with all like I said, all the different boxes and everything, and especially right now with like the UFO and all these new shows coming out. Um, Spielberg's got that movie coming out. Bob Lazar's got a new documentary coming out,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, it looks interesting. Bob Lazar's finally actually just going to come out and do like he's done some with others,
I was
but I
gonna
think
say,
this one's actually I think that he wanted to do just to kind of get the for sure his message or whatever. But
well, that's
um,
actually a good thing because I do think, you know, yeah, he's been featured in a lot of things, but who knows how much of what he shares in those things is actually included in the final product, and all that, the editing and all how all that works. So, yeah, I would actually be interested in watching a documentary from him about himself.
oh, absolutely. Let's see. I'm trying to find a. Here it is. Is this it? Is this the same one? Releasing soon.
But yeah, the UFO thing to me is, I think there's what the government wants people to believe, and then there's what's going on. I don't think that's all the same thing um, out there. So it's I used to try to keep track of everything that was going on with all the disclosure and all that, but at this point now, it just seems like it's everyone. It's very similar to the quote unquote real world stuff. There are agendas. There are groups of people that have views on things, and they are stuck on them, and they don't want to hear anything else. And so to the point where so much of what I see online now when it comes to that is just that drama between people. And I've said this on Michael Strange's show before, Troubled Minds. You know, all that's going on. Meanwhile, everyone that has experiences, they're hardly ever featured or contacted, or their experiences aren't shared much. If they are, then they're shared in a way that supports whoever's agenda or their view on things. And I think that's sad because there's just so much going on that does not get um, much attention because of all that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Carl said we need to start summoning a bunch of people
That I don't know.
on the Rumble. Yeah, it's a little. Is it? I didn't look at
Oh,
it in a second. And we're up to 8 on the Rumble. It is a little light today, but it is what it is.
oh yeah, that happens. I thought he was talking about so many aliens, and I was like, I don't know about that. I don't want to. Not interested in doing that. I've heard so many accounts of that, and most time it seems like it turns out okay, but you never know.
Where's that? This might be. Oh, I had it. Hmm. I had it saved somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I know where everybody is though, Carl. Carl over here talking to us and himself right now.
Huh.
We got Mr. Duffy and Matt Sal over there.
I wonder if there's a internet outage somewhere
Maybe so.
going on.
You never know. Or,
Yeah.
it is a holiday weekend, I guess, and
Mm.
Valentine's Day, which it was crazy having the fights on Valentine's Day, and
Oh,
so it was. Um, People were kind of. Some were kind of I don't know. I thought I had it saved. I don't know. Oh, I did see something. I was gonna bring up. I was gonna bring up here. Um, I don't know if you've seen it. Uh, sh- she might have her own. What she should be. Jen's in Jen's in the same time zone. Yeah, Jen's in the same time zone as me. So, but stuff happens.
yeah.
It happens. It's all good. But it was interesting. The video I seen was talking about how kind of like they live on the movie, but they were using flare, um, and they were seeing people that didn't have a heat signature with it,
Mm.
and it was pretty interesting.
Well, and then there's people that do paranormal investigations, and they catch figures that when they look with their regular eyes, there's no one there. And then they look with the FLIR, and there's a figure there, and it's not just people standing in front of mirrors or something like that. It's in some cases they're out in nature and they're seeing these figures.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something to that. What they're seeing, I don't know, but it's something. So yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me.
Let me put. Let's see what we got. Make sure this ain't doing what I want to do. There we go. I'll play this video real quick.
This woman claims that this is proof that there are non-humans walking amongst us. Now, I don't say that lightly. Like, there could be another explanation, but this is pretty freaking weird. Now, you remember in the movie They Live when they put on the sunglasses and they could see the reptilian-y people who are amongst the normal humans? You know how that movie might have been made about Dicenian goggles, the goggles you put on that can see people's auras, but some people don't have auras because they might not be people? Well, this woman goes to Buckingham Palace, okay? She's in Europe. She's in England. She's using a thermal camera and looking at all kinds of normal people exhibiting a heat signature until she goes in front of Buckingham Palace. She turns around and films the front guards on this side of the gate, and they have a heat signature. But the two guards at the inner gate that goes into Buckingham Palace. In a second, I zoom it in and you'll see they don't have a heat signature, dude. And keep watching because this is extremely bizarre. You'd think someone said, well, their clothes are thick, so you wouldn't be able to see because of their clothes. But look at these two guys on either side of the door. No heat signature on their faces. You'd think for sure if it's picking up the heat signature of this light, should pick up their face. So now, last I checked, reptiles are cold-blooded and have less of a heat signature. I'm just saying, should we get thermal cameras and check things out? Now, according to Google's AI, there is no scientific evidence confirming aliens live among us. As if you'd be waiting around for the science to be settled on that. Dude, by the way, aliens, schmalians, just know if there is any non-human entities out there, they're not from space or through any firmament, okay? They're from other lands. They would be from other lands outside of the ice wall, which I can't wait to explore once human freedom is restored. That being said, could there be other creatures from other realms around us? Honestly, from all the rabbit holes I've been down and how many deceptions we've been deceived by and all the stuff that we've been fooled about, I would definitely imagine that is not too crazy of a thought for me to entertain, man. Now, do we know there's multidimensional entities around us? Yes. Do they harvest low vibrational frequency emotions? Yes. Is that why you should be extremely positive all the time? That's one of the reasons. Yes. Flip the brainwave state into everything that happens to you is good and everything that is happening is for the better, and it will completely change your reality. And you literally do not need to take my word for that. Try it for 4 days and watch what blessings appear into your life. Oh, and before you ask for anything more, first, make sure you are mentioning how grateful you are for what you already have. Okay? Much love, everyone. Follow for more and comment your thoughts.
That is interesting. That reminds me, I've heard in different shows over the years, cases where people would be out in just public in cities, driving around, wherever, and they'd see someone in another vehicle or walking around, and they'd see the person's features change to where they look like a monster, so like with long teeth and like shadowy and like that kind of thing, and then change back or appear to change back. And the other person would look at them like, oh, you saw that. Or in some cases, yes, I wanted you to see that. And I don't know what all those are, but it makes me wonder, again, if that kind of technology was used on them, that FLIR, those cameras, what would they see if they would see anything at all? I'm really curious about that now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I seen Mattel say that we need to invest in thermal cameras now. Yeah, I mean, what's up, Monique? Yeah, Mr. Duffy, I kind of see what you're saying. Some of that stuff is like, he said that, was talking about the flat Earth and the said the ice wall. Yeah, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if that's intentionally, because it's kind of like the Zeitgeist movie. They threw a bunch of extra stuff in there with the religious stuff, and I wish they had left that. To me personally, I wish they left that part out that way because it was the stuff about the money and all that stuff was right on. It was bank on, and then they put the religious stuff in, and that's all people ever talked about was the religious, and talk about how and all that. I wish they'd cut that part out, and like, hey, let's just put out this information. Let's put out this stuff for sure is real information instead of mixing it together. But I don't know. But yeah, I'd be interested to see. It'd be kind of scary, have. I know they make thermal cameras and stuff where like you can attach them to your like iPhone and stuff like that, and you can turn around and like take video. Be interesting to go see and try to walk around. I've seen that. That's the second video I've had seen like that. The other one wasn't at wasn't at Buckingham Palace. It was somewhere else, but they were showing people that did not have no heat signature, and it's like, huh, things to make you go, hmm.
Well, I mean, if they were, another possibility in that case, where whatever they were thinking they were seeing, those videos, whatever the people making posting those videos thought they were seeing, were they seeing spirits, ghosts, souls? Because for one thing, you know, there are reports in many cases of people encountering what what they are pretty sure are spirits of relatives that look solid. They don't look transparent. The transparent thing, it's only one way that, or one type of apparition that is seen. There's many that appear to be solid, regular people, and in some cases they even feel they'll even make contact, hug or whatever, and they'll feel solid, even if it's just for a few moments. So with that kind of camera, and I think that is only going to, obviously, with technology, eventually we're going to get to a point where all cameras just have can pick up all the spectrums, and you just flip through them. I mean, I know that's already somewhat a thing with larger cameras, but I'm sure eventually it will get to the point where that'll be just an option for every camera. And you know, even in your glasses, I mean, they already have that for regular cameras and stuff. So yeah, I think I really am curious about the intersection of the paranormal or the anomalous and technology as it keeps advancing, and these kinds of detection devices picking up visual things, cameras, but also different kinds of energy. Where that all goes and how that people perceive that and think about that going forward here.
What we got here? So we got going on here. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the show here.
Hey Ricky, how you been, man?
Good, good. How about you?
I've been good.
Well, come on and add to the. What you got for us today, Dave?
Nothing. I was gonna sit in and listen, hear what's going on.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool. Appreciate you coming on. It. You been feeling better?
Yeah, I'm feeling better.
That's good. Yeah, I heard you. They went to the hospital and stuff. So
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool.
I'm walking down the typical latent path. I had congestive heart failure.
Mm, no good there.
No, I'll be alright though.
Oh yeah, yeah. You, no doubt. But yeah, appreciate you popping in. I just showed a video. I was showing where they were doing using flare thermal cameras and seeing where they actually seen where the people didn't have a heat signature, and well, that's what we're just talking about that. It's I wonder. I wonder. I know they do have some of them cameras, like James was just saying. I have the cameras with the different spectrums and stuff. Some of them are pretty high, but they got they're pretty expensive. But they do. Some of them are just specific. This spectrum, that spectrum, and stuff. I've seen people use them especially for UFOs and stuff like that, trying to find stuff. But
Yeah, I remember the first time I think I saw somebody using those cameras was at Zach Bagans from Ghost Hunters or whatever his show is.
Yeah, adventures. Yep. Nice to meet you as well, Dave. By the way.
How you doing, James?
Okay. But yeah. Yep.
yeah, a lot of ghost shows and stuff like use that flare and because of heating the signatures and finding and of course some people hey it's a show, it's a TV show, they got to do all that, but I've heard of other people that didn't have a TV show that's used it and picked up a lot of amazing stuff.
Right.
And,
Yep.
um, be interesting to see, if he had, had some pretty cool cameras and stuff, be able to go around and check stuff out. Laughing at Carl.
Yeah, like I said, I think eventually we'll get to the point where you can just put on, a certain kind of glasses or even just, one lens or whatever, and it'll just be a camera built into the thing, and you'll be able to switch it. I mean, I don't know if that will, I doubt that that will sort of get the paranormal out there more to the general public. I think there's always going to be that sort of bias or skepticism towards it. But and I think that proof is very. It can always change. I mean, there's never going to be proof that every single person accepts. But if we can still get more things to look at, find more evidence, potential evidence, and find patterns that can still help, even if it's just a little bit at a time.
Oh, for sure. You know, try to see if I will.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to believe anything. I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and this guy was saying, "Do you remember that incident that happened in Miami almost 2 years to the date, down at some place called the Bayside Mall?" And the Bayside Mall sits downtown by one of the very nice areas. It's kind of a high end walking mall, outdoor mall. Um, and one Saturday or Sunday night, every single cop in Miami, every single squad car was ordered to go down there because of an incident that was occurring. Now, normally those are for like 9/11 events or something of that catastrophic nature. That every single cop in the town was in downtown Miami in this mall. And this mall isn't that big. I've been there many times. And the official story was that there was a group of teens that got into a fight in this mall. But everyone else was saying, oh, no, 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 no. We were seeing 9 and 10 foot tall beings and this, what people described as a bright light, they thought was a portal opened, and all this stuff was going on. And of course, the cops ran everybody out of it and sealed it all off. And then for 2 years now, there's never been another word said about it. One of the biggest police movements ever in the city of Miami's history, advertised globally, hundreds of videos, people all over the place going, no, we saw what we saw. We know what we saw. And there's no way that a bunch of teenagers getting to a fist fight is going to draw, 300 cops or whatever to this mall. And people are starting to question now, like, okay, it's been 2 years. This was obviously something that occurred. Every cop was there, and yet nobody wants to talk about it anymore. I mean, well, why not? Why is nobody actually pursuing this? What happened there? This isn't a light event. This is, a very serious event. And of course, the police in the city of Miami are still, well, it's under investigation. We can't say anything.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of looking into that because I've heard so many different things about it. Where some people say, it very much was that it was that some kind of major paranormal event. Other people I've heard say that, seen online, that it was there was some kind of a hoax involved. And I'm not saying I know anything that happened. I'm not doubting anyone or saying I know for sure one way or the other. But just considering the possibility that something like that could happen, I can imagine that authorities would, if it was that big, I can imagine that authorities would be called out to sort of get everyone out of there because again, that kind of stuff is not supposed to exist. You know, in the minds of a lot of people that run things, they don't want people to think that anything like that can happen. That's only supposed to be in fiction, in TV shows and movies. But all those TV shows and movies have some kind of basis on something.
Yeah, TVs are showing us. I do really always. I'm always saying this all the time. But I do believe that they show us the truth in the TV shows and the movies. There's bits of truth we can pull out of it. Some of the exaggerate things might be to a point, but the basis of it, I do think there actually really are some truth. But I remember that what you're talking about, Uncle Dave. Um, it was it was a lot of cops. It was insane down there, and then poof, it disappeared. Like it was completely gone. Um, a
And
lot of
that mall's
shows.
a big a tourist trap. That's where, like I say, it's right in downtown. It's by the American Airlines Arena, all kinds of high end hotels around there and everything. It's really a very upscale kind of place if you want to look at it that way, you know? And there was no video. All the video was confiscated. People's cameras, phones were actually taken from them. So it's more like the police were sent in there to lock it down and erase any evidence and contain the issue as to opposed to actually going down there and making sure what the hell was going on. And none of the cops are allowed to talk about it. Not one Miami police officer will speak to you about that incident. Not one.
Hmm. That's
And there's one,
fascinating.
yeah, and Miami's a pretty leaky city because of it's pretty world famous for its nightlife and it's this and it's that. And back in the 80s and 90s and all the way through today, it was still a major cocaine hub, cartel hub. And these people just love talking about busting cartels and drugs and this and that. So for this to be completely swept under the rug and never spoken of again is highly unusual for that entire culture of that city. Never mind just the government.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, I have to look into I have to look into that city itself just to see what kind of major other paranormal stuff has ever happened there. Now I'm kind of curious because I always wonder, do things happen in cycles because of the environment of an area? Um, the different stones, different types of rocks and stones that it's made of. All the water, as always, water can be a magnet to this kind of stuff. So I always wonder about that.
There is a stone ring. Um, they build on every inch of land they can in around Miami.
Hmm.
Hotels, high rises, whatever the case may be. Well, they went to build a high rise, I believe, and there was this. I don't want to call it a well, but there's this huge circle of stones on the water that was deemed they couldn't touch it. I can't remember it was because it was related to the indigenous tribes or why, but they have not been able to perform construction on that site now for like 10 years, waiting for the investigation of the historical nature of that. And the indigenous people are like, that's a sacred spot for us. That's probably where rituals took place or offerings took place or whatever was in the culture, 5,000 years ago, and they don't want it touched. They're fighting to keep it from being developed. And of course, the developers are fighting to develop it because they'll be able to put up, $1 million, 400 square foot apartments on it. So they want it to build.
Yeah.
And I still don't know if that's been resolved, but there are those things within southern Florida. Um, Not to mention a huge indigenous uh, population. Because when you go
Yeah.
on, if you take 75 out of Miami and you start going across what's called Alligator Alley, when you first get on that interstate, you're actually passing through a very large reservation, a very large reservation. And it's, I don't know how old it is, but of course it goes back thousands of years and all of they kind of keep they keep it very restricted. Like, they don't let people on the res and it's very locked down. Um, and it's very contained, I guess, but they still apparently practice the same stuff that they've been practicing for thousands of years there, whatever the case may be. Um, I went there once. Once a year, they'll open the res up and they'll do like share Indian culture with whomever wants to come and see it. And these guys are still wearing full warrior stuff, right? And this guy we were talking to, he said he could trace his ancestors back so many generations, and he's a full-blooded Seminole, and he is a descendant of some big chief. I mean, it's all like these people are still acting that way today. You can tell this guy doesn't wear that thing once a year. They like wear those outfits. I don't call them outfits. They're traditional dress to a somewhat regular basis whenever they do these rituals, whatever the case may be. You could tell this guy was dressed like this. He wasn't uncomfortable wearing nothing more than feathers and a shield made out of wood, and he had a huge headdress. And I mean, I said something. I called him a Native American, and he said, "Don't you ever call me a Native American. We're all Native Americans. If you're born in America, you're a Native American. We are Indians, Seminole Indian tribe." And everyone was like, "Oh." He goes, "That's just a politically correct term somebody made up. We are Indians. Look around here. This is an Indian reservation."
And
And
the
then,
Seminoles never were conquered. Seminoles was one of the few tribes that was never conquered. They stood strong to the end.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And there's theories, of course. Actually, the Garden Eden was actually in Florida.
Hmm.
There's, and then you had. I'm thinking of a story. I can see it. I can hear it. Thinking of it. I can't think of the name, what it was. But yeah, there's lots of thoughts processed on that, like the Garden Eden, especially because of the rivers, and then even talking about Noah's Ark, and it was built with gopher wood, and the only place you can get gopher wood is over in Florida, and so there's lots of alternative theories, I guess you could say, that that actually all those sites were actually over here in Americas. Just another way that people show that the Americas, they knew about them for a long, long time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've heard of there being. I think I've heard of that stone ring that you were talking about, Dave, and I've heard of like more than one of those. If I'm not mistaken, I've heard of entire areas filled with just stone structures or the remains of stone structures down in Florida that are going through that exact same litigation that you were talking about there, um, where the developers want to build and they're not being allowed to build, and I'm okay with that personally. But
Hmm.
but yeah, I've heard of that, and I can't remember now like exact areas in Florida, but I've heard of that in Florida. So and stones have power. I mean, they do contain or give off or just interact with energy in different ways. So that makes sense to me.
Right. Yeah, it's like in Europe. We all know of Stonehenge, right?
Hmm.
Um, when my ex and I went to go see Stonehenge, the tour guide on the bus had photo albums just full of photos of those circular type stones all
Yeah.
over Europe. They're not, yeah, I mean, they're everywhere.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, but everybody's heard of Stonehenge, but there's just hundreds of them everywhere.
Hmm.
Yes.
It's like
Yep.
pyramids. I mean, there's
Yeah.
pyramids all
Right.
everywhere. Even to the point of like the Mississippian Indians, that they had the mounds and had pyramids. Um, it's got to be some kind of connection. There's got to be all the way across.
Gotta be. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Macon, Georgia has some very famous Indian mounds in Macon. I don't remember the tribe, but apparently there's even some in Missouri that supposedly are in some type of, I don't know how to explain it exactly, like global ring. You know, they talk about the lines of fire or whatever they're called, ley lines.
Yes.
Yes, Leylands, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that these intersect with the ley lines, and they want them completely off limit. They want anybody near them. They don't want anybody doing anything near them. They're completely trying to isolate these things, um, because they are trying to say because they're so historical that they don't want them manipulated or damaged or any vandalized or whatever. And other people are saying no, 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 because they know that those are real and that they must, I don't want to say conduct energy, but there's some type of paranormal presence or activity that is caused by these areas in Missouri.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And they're trying to completely cut them off.
Yeah. You know, talking about this, so I've been listening to, re-listening to, the book, The Mothman Prophecies, and by John Keel. If you ever want to read some amazing stuff about just high strangeness, paranormal, um, creatures, cryptids, all that stuff, check out just John Keel, or John A. Keel. I think is how he's like his author name or whatever. Um, but just check out his books. He has several books. But the I was listening to that book today, and he was talking about the state of West Virginia. Apparently, he did a there was some research done on the languages of the people that were here before Europeans, and apparently, based on that research, as far as what Keel is saying, as far as what he heard or read, there is no evidence. Apparently, basically, West Virginia, just that state itself, was considered like a no-go area for the Indians, if we want to go with that um, way of saying that, in the U.S. Like they would not live there um, for a long time anyway. And so Keel was wondering if that was related to the modern day, the whole sightings of all the Mothman stuff and UFOs seen all around West Virginia. Um,
Hmm.
just Men in Black, kind of just all the kinds of strangeness that he was recording accounts of during the whole time that he was passing through that area, and the whole Silver Bridge collapse and all these other things. That whole Mothman saga there. He was wondering if that had something to do with that fact that the area was apparently left alone by the people that were here before people that came from Europe.
Isn't there a very famous Blue Book incident in West Virginia?
Hmm. I don't know.
I've watched that thing about the Project Blue Book many times, and I could have sworn there was one that they went to investigate, and they interviewed a bunch of people, and there was pictures taken of it, and there was physical evidence of this incident. Um,
The Flatwoods Monster. That was
Maybe I
that
can't
was
remember
West
what it
Virginia.
is.
Huh.
Because then they went after the woman who originally reported it. She was like a single mom with 5 kids, and they were trying to discredit her and not, telling people not to take her story seriously because of whatever her life circumstances were.
Oh, of course. Because
Yeah,
that,
and
yeah.
they, right, yeah, and they tried to cut, um, and then she just disappeared too. She just went completely dark, silence.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the Flatwoods Monster.
Mm,
Um, 1952 Flatwoods Monster sighting.
Okay.
Yeah, mother of two was a sight involved. Witness seeing fiery glowing
hmm.
object descend, followed by appearance of a 10-foot alien-like creature.
Huh. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So I again, just for anyone that is into all this kind of stuff, if you haven't already, John Keel. I highly recommend him.
No, I'd love to. I'd love to read books that are nonfiction. He's nonfiction, right? He's basing it
Yep.
more on facts, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Rather, yeah.
Yep. He has several of them too. So yeah.
No, I
Okay.
don't even remember that movie.
Well, the movie was only roughly like very loosely based on the whole thing. Um, but yeah, there was a movie. Yep.
Ashton Kutcher, is that right?
No, I don't know. I don't think
No.
so. This is I think
Oh, that was the Butterfly Effect.
okay. Yeah, I didn't think he was in. It was in that one.
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
But
I'm gonna go look for that again.
yeah. Yep. But yeah. I don't know. I just we were talking about that, and it just made me think of that. I was listening to that literally today. Um, but
Cool.
yeah, I think everything is connected. All the weirdness and so many places. They're known as a haunted place, but then if you look into it, they're also oh wow, that's fascinating. There's UFOs have been seen around here for years too. And or
Hmm.
there'll be a place that's UFOs have been seen around here, and then there's this creature that's been seen around here too. Eventually I want to do like a whole sort of overview of the different all the different states in the U.S. and like the types of activity that are. I mean, maybe I'll end up just finding it's everything everywhere because I wouldn't be surprised. It's just that it depends on the year and the time, the date
Hmm.
and time and all that, and who's there to notice and all that. But um, yeah, it makes me wonder that how all this works, and it seems like everything is possibly connected.
Yeah. When I was out in California, the entire state of California is technically called an Indian burial ground
Mm-hmm.
because they just buried people wherever they died.
Right.
So we were building. So I had like four buildings in a row on Corvin Drive in Santa Clara, California, and the second building that we went to develop had been shut down 5 years earlier because they found Native American remains like 6 inches below the asphalt. And
Yeah.
back in the 50s, when they first started developing that area from pecan orchards and stuff like that, they didn't pay attention to any of it. They just dozed it all over, covered it with concrete, covered it with asphalt, period. Didn't give a shit. Um, there's photos, aerial photos from where my buildings were sitting from 1957, where you could see huge Indian mounds that were just destroyed.
Yeah.
They just tore them all down. And then when we started building or taking over that property for development, I mean, literally, there was just bodies everywhere, artifacts everywhere, all over that property. It took them a year to continue to do an archaeological dig just on the open trenches. They didn't do the entire, 2 acres. They just did where we were trenching, and they
Right.
were pulling arrowheads out and just everything. And there was a concrete river. I don't know what we would call them. Drainage, whatever. But that was actually a creek before they turned it into this concrete drainage thing.
Hmm.
And apparently, all up and down that area, the Native Americans and the Indians, whatever, stayed around that because it was water source. It was a clean water source. So all up and down that entire area is just artifacts, remains, everything. And Steven Spielberg is actually a very hated man in that area because he won't allow them. Like what we had to do is we had to work with the tribe assigned to that part of the area, right? They had to come, we had to have meetings with them, we had to discuss how we were going to handle stuff. They had watchers, observers that would come and stand next to the bulldozers or the guys digging or anything. And if they saw something, they'd be like, stop, and you have to stop immediately. And they can do an archaeological dig. They get like 72 hours or something to go into that area that they think they saw something and do a dig on it. And then you're not allowed to do anything for those 72 hours. You just have to stop. Steven Spielberg was like, piss on you. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And the woman who represented the tribe that we worked with, she is apparently well known because as an activist, because she's attacked people with shovels and stuff that were digging on, you know, identified remains and lands, and they weren't respecting the law or anything. And she'd show up with a group of people, and they just hit people with shovels and stuff. I mean, she was a radical. I mean, the first meeting with her, she was pretty fired up with us too, because she thought we had done all this damage. And we
Oh
explained to her,
wow.
yeah, no, 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 no. We are taking over this. We are willing to work with you in any way, shape, or form. We respect your culture. We respect your heritage. My staff and every contractor and vendor on this site, you have my word that they will obey the law. They will respect you and your people, and they will do whatever is appropriate to make sure you are happy with how we develop this site.
Right.
And then they take all these artifacts that they find. Like the one of them was a woman with her berry babied with her,
Mm.
and they took all of her remains and the baby's remains and they put them in a museum or a identified sacred ground for them to be repatriated into.
Right.
And then when the construction's over, they actually come and perform a ceremony, blessing whomever they may not have found or anybody that's still hasn't been discovered because we don't dig anywhere, right? And stuff like that. And I forget what all we had to do, but I mean, it probably added $1 million to my construction build to make sure
Yeah.
we followed the law. And that's why Steven Spielberg's like, I'm not doing it because he owns massive amounts of land there.
Yeah, and I know some people may not consider all that to be important, but I kind of feel like if there's anything to the idea of any kind of consciousness beyond the body or whatever, or souls or spirits, then maybe it's a good idea to be respectful still. Not even considering the fact that we should be respectful anyway, but there was one of the true stories I found online that I shared in my show maybe about a year ago or so. I also shared it on over on Troubled Minds Radio for a special show there. I found this post from someone who worked in a funeral home that was changing locations, and they had this room, and it was full of uh, what do you call that? Cremated remains. There we go. Of people that had not been claimed, and they were transferring them, and so they were all in boxes and everything. And this person was putting these boxes in bags to transfer to the new location, and he put one box in a bag, and then he was going to put another box in another bag, and he said that he just felt this, like he in his mind something said no and stopped him, like in his tracks. And he went back and looked at the two boxes, the one he put in a bag and the one he was going to put in another bag, and they both had the same last name on them. And basically, one said was the mother and one was a baby that had unfortunately passed. And once he put them in the same package, same bag to be transferred, everything was okay apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But they did not. Someone, probably the mother, somehow was able to reach out and say, no, I don't want to be separated, you know, from my child. It was just really fascinating to me. So that kind of stuff to me makes all the, even though it's a hassle and it's a pain to deal with. I'm sure financial, in terms of financial costs and all that. I think it's important to work with people as much as possible. Um, you know, to be as respectful and kind as possible to others.
Right. Can you imagine, like, if you went to somewhere and you went to develop it and they found out that it was a Christian graveyard there and there was hundreds of graves there, and instead of taking the time to repatriate, identify, and put closure to that site, the owner just went, screw that shit, just cover it with concrete and let's move forward. That's
Right.
how you wouldn't be happy about that. What if it turned out that your ancestors, your relatives were in that area, and now they're just under a foot of concrete. And guess what? No, you're never
Yeah.
going to know. How disrespectful would that be?
Yeah.
So,
Well, they did Lake Lanier. They actually did that. They put a lake on top of it. Um,
Mm.
where's that?
well, uh, in Georgia,
Yeah.
submerged in the 50s for water management, and there's been a bunch of cities like that, and where they were supposed to move the graves and stuff like that. I remember hearing the stories about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were supposed to move the graves and stuff and go in there and dig everybody up and move them to a new location. And I think somebody went and was diving down there, and they looked, and you could still see the gravestones and stuff like that, where
Yeah.
they never did get in there and do it. They just like F it.
Yeah.
And
That
once
was on.
they flooded the area once,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of paranormal activity there too because of that.
Hmm.
Well,
That.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Just real quick. That the newer version of Unsolved Mysteries did an episode on that location, I believe, where they talked about that. People feeling and feeling hands sort of grab their feet while they're swimming, you know, and
Mm.
then looking down there and there's no one there, and they get out and and it's fine, but it's still dangerous because you could drown, and yeah, there was a whole show about that on Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah. The where we the first building that we developed actually went into, from the photos we could tell that part of the mound had been where about a quarter of this property was,
Mm,
right? And when I first went out there, I was there by myself. And every Friday afternoon, now I'm in about a 40,000 square foot building by myself. So you could figure maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But every Friday afternoon around 2 or 3, I would hear noise in the drop level above me. And I thought it was, mice or something because the building had sat empty for about a year. So I figured we had rodents or whatever, right? So I didn't pay any attention to it. But every Friday, it got more pronounced to where it wasn't like, oh, that's not a mouse or a raccoon or anything. So I get a ladder, I go up into the drop level, I look around, there's no evidence of rodents anywhere, right? So one Friday, it was a loud boom up there. And I said, okay, you know what? You win. Every Friday afternoon, you can have the place. I'm going to pack my stuff up. I'll see you Monday morning. And I got up and left. The next Friday,
hmm.
there was no more noise. And I'm not
Yeah.
joking. And people thought
Yeah.
I was crazy, but my sales director was sitting there when it happened one afternoon, right? Because he normally isn't there on Friday afternoons. He's at home. But he was there with me, and I said, "Do you hear that?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "What is it?" And I go, "I don't know, but I know it's not rodents. I know it's not animals or anything else." And every Friday
Yeah.
afternoon around this time, this happens. And I'm glad you heard it because I'm sure if I told anybody, they thought I was crazy. Um, and we spent, I don't know, 40, $50 million renovating this building. We put in all state of the art systems, air conditioning units, electrical stuff, you name it. It was all brand new, state of the art. And we had constant problems with our air conditioning systems for some reason.
Mm,
Constant. And we had people flying in from all over the world trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with these systems.
wow.
Nobody could figure it out. And then we put in uh, Amazon became one of our big customers, and they took half the building. And we added some new infrastructure, that are electrical infrastructure, into this area. And one of the, uh, well, I guess switches, right? They stepped down the 480 to 240, 240 to 120, um, and conditioned the power so we could hook up to the computers, right? And fed from UPSs. One of them caught on fire,
Huh.
and it wasn't even that heavily loaded. You could understand if it was overloaded and it was hot in there or whatever, but it's about 55 degrees in there. It's not heavily loaded. And this thing literally caught on fire. They had people flying in from Europe and some other place here in America. And the guy who had worked for this company, he was the lead dude for this company, worked with them for like 30 years. He came and he inspected the unit. He looked around and he looked at us and he says, I have never, ever, ever seen anything like this happen ever anywhere in the world. And he says, I'm responsible for all of it. I design it, I do the QA, I do everything. These are my babies. And I've never, ever, ever seen this. And we all just looked at him and went, Welcome to 3030 Corvin Drive, my friend. We hear that shit all the time. And they just looked at each other like, What? And like, we could give you a history of this place, you wouldn't believe it. What goes on here in this building, you would not believe it.
Yeah.
And we said we believe this is why it happens. And we're not trying to be disrespectful. We're actually trying to be respectful about this, that we violated these people's culture, for however long, just dozed over everything, didn't care. And of course, I don't care if it's Indians or anyone, when you disturb something like this, I believe that you're going to have some type of paranormal influence. I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm telling you what
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
And since you, as the number one guy for this company in the world, have never seen this and can't explain it, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to think? When you can give me a good answer, let us know. We'll look forward to your after actions report.
Yeah. That, and I've heard so many accounts of, you know, people that get move into homes and they have activity and it's involves their electrical systems and lights turning on or off or whatever, um, power going out for no apparent reason, and they call electricians, and electricians come in and say same kind of thing. I can't figure out why these issues are happening. Everything looks fine, and they go away, and everything's fine, and then it happens again. It's yours is a larger scale version of that, but I've heard of that so often with places where it seems that there's some other people there, presences there that they're not happy about their space being taken. You know, it doesn't matter if it's legally okay or not. They don't care about, that's not their problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't surprise me, but that is fascinating. Yeah, that's amazing. That I didn't realize it could happen on that large of a scale, and but it makes sense too.
Oh yeah, because now, I mean, I forget, there was about 5 acres that we had on that one street there. So we have no idea how much is actually underneath. We saw
Mm,
what they just pulled out of the trenches that we had dug to run electrical and plumbing and stuff. We didn't touch 10% of it. And they took out, I forget the number now, but it was a lot, hundreds or thousands. I forget exactly how many. I was just so stupefied about them finding that woman and that baby right in the driveway, 6 inches under the asphalt, that I was kind of freaked out about that and always focused on that, because I just found out like somebody had to have known when they were laying that asphalt back in the 80s that there was something there. I can't believe that you didn't come in and doze that flat and not find artifacts that you just ignored and covered with the asphalt.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but we dealt with, megawatts of power, 8, 10, 12. One site I had over 200 megawatts of power in it. So you think of all that electrical energy, and it's said to believe that they feed off electrical energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you
Yep.
go. There's a huge source. 24/7,
Yes.
365, right? Um,
Yep.
even I had a guy who worked for me in Dallas from Columbia, and he went down to Columbia and he got these uh, prayer beads, basically blessed by some type of priest slash shaman out in
Mm-hmm.
the Colombian bush somewhere where he was from, right? And he brought him back and put him in the data center. And somebody said something about a religious artifact being in the data center, and I asked him about it, and he goes, "Well, Mr. Dave," he says, "I had that done because there was too much crazy stuff going on here. So I went and had those beads blessed and put in here to protect us on the site, and I'm not taking them down."
Hmm.
I said, "Okay,
Yeah.
Fabian, I'm not going to argue with you. There's nothing they can say or do about it. They may not like it, but you're right." And I wholeheartedly agree with you because, again, you know, Indians didn't believe that you owned land.
Yeah.
They didn't believe that. You can't own the sky, you can't own water, you can't own land. And a lot of them were very migratory. They went all around the state that they may be in. But, in the wintertime, they went south to avoid the winter. And then in the summer, they went back up north where they could avoid the oppressive heat. So, they
Yeah.
migrated, right? So, all over this entire country, there's got to be how many millions of graves that are not registered, nobody's ever known about because they were just somebody died as they were migrating and they buried them where they were, and just kept the tribe just keeps moving on or whatever. So there's really almost nowhere in the Americas, not just America, but the
Right.
Americas, the entire continent, that there isn't burials.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, a lot of it's crazy to think about how much was just like you said, just destroyed. Um, just like the mounds, just for the interstates and stuff.
Hmm.
But a lot of them, a lot of the times you hear stories about, like you said, that they had to find some other stuff, but it was when when job sites find some of them items, sometimes they're like, hey, we gotta, they'll just cover it up because if not, they're gonna shut their job down. Everything locks down. They can't do no more work. Because they got to bring in the archaeologists or whatever and come in there and like, oh wait a minute, this is a, certain areas even to the point, um, like if you're digging in your yard and you find some Native American beads and stuff, and if you tell them like, hey, look, I found Native American beads right there, they'll turn around and lock that area of ground out and turn around and come in, like, excavate it and stuff like that. And if you plan on putting your garden there or something like that, you're screwed. That's not happening no more.
Mm-mm.
And they don't get no hurry to do anything.
No.
Um, I know. I'm watching Curse of Oak Island. They found some. What did they find? They found something from the native, the native population there from a long time ago, from like the 400s or something like that. And that area right there got shut down. Like, we can't do any more work here. We're done. Um, it turned into tribal protection land right there. Like, so they could not do any kind of more work at that spot right there. They go 100 yards away where it wasn't, they didn't find nothing, but right there, right around that area, they couldn't do anything, and they shut them down that little spot. And of course, then they're like, if you try to, we're gonna pull permits and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. Matt Salsido said, research the land you live on. Uh, you can look into the land you have, and then plus it's one of them things, like, you never know, like, especially with Native Americans. We had, they could have had a spot anywhere, especially hundreds of years ago. And any place that we have, they could have had an encampment or something like that there for a little bit. And if you start pushing stuff around, you find arrowheads and all kinds of stuff all over the country, So
Yeah, and they don't keep. I don't even know how much they do to this day. They didn't keep written records for thousands of years. It
Yeah.
was all word of mouth. The stories were told from generation to generation to generation to generation. Nothing was recorded on paper. It was either drawings on stone or it was all just verbal from generation to generation.
Yep.
So, of course, how much of their history is completely undocumented?
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of it, if you look at like the Mayan and stuff like that down there, or the Spanish destroyed, burnt a lot of their books and stuff, even though they had written language and they had written stuff, codices. A lot of it got destroyed because they thought they were satanic because of the imagery on there, and they burned a lot of it. So how much history right there was lost. Um, but for sure, when the ones who just had the verbal, um, you know, passed down to each, generation, how much we lost. If some, especially during, you know, early settlement times and all the terrible disease and stuff like that that killed so many Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we know we lost, lots of history right there and lots of who knows.
Yeah. It's almost, well, that was definitely a genocide, right?
Hmm.
Intentional genocide. But when you
Yep.
are on a construction site and you're like, just keep moving, don't say a word. Well, that may not be intentional genocide, but it's definitely a form of genocide because you're eliminating someone's history, someone's culture. You're eradicating them from the history books or whatever.
Yep.
Absolutely. And right now they're not to get too political. They're doing some of that stuff right now. They're eliminating um, some of the stuff over in England and stuff like that. They're talking about doing away with, saying that the Scottish and Irish and Welsh had their own distinct cultures and stuff, and it was just, throwing that out the door kind of thing. Uh, Maybe a shout out to our raid real quick. We got Devilishly Angelic raided us, and we got Fire Paul, Yankee Free, Liz. Hello, all here. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all coming. We got probably about 25 more minutes, and then Trouble Minds will be raiding Trouble Minds. So yeah, hit the like and repost. We got some fun stuff. I just got confirmation. I got a guest. So we're actually going to do a special lunch show on next a week from Monday. James, you be free about 2 p.m. on the 26th,
That's a Monday.
23rd.
Yeah. Is that a? You said that's a Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
Yeah, I can do that. That's fine.
Yeah, I got. I just see my email here, and while we're sitting here talking, my brain's going 100 miles an hour. I got Matt of Deep Woods Paranormal. He's going to come on. So he's got
Awesome.
30 plus years of chasing ghosts. So lots of ghost
Awesome.
stories. We'll still do a Sunday show. I don't want not to do a Sunday show, but we're going to do a special Monday lunch show, also on the
Yeah.
23rd. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. No, I'll be there. That sounds great.
Yeah. Send me an invite.
Yeah, yeah, I will. I will, Uncle Dave. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Like I said, I've watched some of his shows, and um, he's got some good content, and he agreed to come on and tell some of the stories and some of the stuff he's seen. So I knew it was gonna be good. It'll be some good times for sure.
Yeah. When I first moved in here, Ricky, my bedroom's upstairs, right?
Hmm.
And I twice. Well, one, I've never. There's many a time up there I don't feel like I'm alone. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There is something, and it's not a good thing. I feel very oppressed up there, right? So twice, um, I was asleep, and I'm weird because I sleep with my head at the foot of the bed, and that puts me almost in line with my closet door. and twice the lights came on in that closet and went back off very quickly.
Wow.
And then I had a lamp do the same thing. It just came on, boop, and I looked at it for a minute, and I was like, "What?" And the light just went back off. So I haven't gone. I rarely go up there because I'm like, it just doesn't feel right to me up there for some reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the history of this place. I don't know anything about who may or may not have died here because this place been around. It's not old, but it's from the '80s. But you don't know.
Yeah.
And electrical shorts don't cause lights to just come on. They'll pop up, but you'll see a surge. They just
Yeah.
don't come on. And when I'm seeing lights just come on, then I'm like, something's wrong. So I don't go up there anymore.
I don't blame you. I was like, you could go up there and try to talk to it and see if they turn the lights on and off on you, but that might freak you out even more.
Yeah, I might piss it off.
Yeah,
And then they'll come down here and mess with me down here.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you might find out more information than you really want to know, and I'm not
yeah,
joking when I say that. I've heard that before.
yeah, yeah. They would. Yeah. Well, Schrader said that you don't want to do any kind of ghost venturing or hunting in your own house because
Yeah.
you don't want to. Dave Schrader. That's it. Dave Schrader said
Dave,
that.
yep.
And he said, yeah, don't do any ghost hunting in your own home because once you if you do that and you open that door and you realize there's stuff there, you can have speculation and you lose you're okay. But once you figure out that what is actually there, then you're gonna like you don't really want to look into that. But I've done that with a flashlight before, like they show on the shows. I've actually done that with a flashlight, and it was wild. Um, I remember and I had another me and my loader man was sitting there in the office, and all of a sudden that flashlight came on by itself. We were just sitting, we're watching TV, waiting on the gravel trucks to come in. He was loading the trucks, and I was writing a ticket. It was late at night. We're doing interstate work, and I was sitting there, and we both watching TV, and all of a sudden that flashlight came on, and we're sitting here, and I was like, I wonder. And then I asked a question, can you turn it off? And it turned it off. And I said, well, can you turn it back on again? And it came back on again. I'm like, oh, hell, here we go.
Mhm.
And then we heard a big loud noise, and it wasn't much longer after that it stopped doing it. But yeah, it was. Um, that's the only time I've really, like, it was just all in the moment because I was like, but yeah.
Yeah, I had an experience. I think I told that here before, but maybe not. I have a friend. Well, first of all, my friend and I that used to live near me. We went to this library presentation from a paranormal investigation group, and they were going through all their gear and telling us about it. And they got their flashlight out and told us about how it can be used to communicate and turn off for yes or turn on for whatever you assign to whatever. And they set it down on the table after they had turned it off, and it turned on while they were talking. And it's just a regular little flashlight. There's no way like they would be allowed to set up strings or what, and like that to rig it or whatever. But so my friend decided to get this flashlight because he knew my place was active, and he decided to get this flashlight just in case we ever wanted to do that anywhere. We weren't thinking of using it here, but he set it on a bookshelf one day, and one day he was here visiting again, and we were sitting there talking about all this kind of stuff, and then the light turned on the bookshelf. Neither of us were by it, and thought, oh, that's fascinating. Wonder if that's a glitch or if it actually is something there, and it turned off. It's like, oh, okay, so there's someone here, and it turned on, and then all right, well, mind answering some questions, and it stayed on. And they thought, oh well, maybe it doesn't want to answer questions. And eventually it turned off, and then it stayed off. And we thought, well, must whoever it was, and we said this out loud too. Whoever it was, they must be gone now. And it turned back on again.
Hmm.
So it was someone there but they were not interested in answering questions or playing along. They just wanted us to know, hey, someone, I'm here, and then eventually, did that a couple of times, and eventually it just stopped and never did it again. And I, so, but yeah, I do agree. I've heard that saying about that, don't investigate your own home. Uh, a lot of places over the years. I think it's just general good practice, good advice that people have figured out on their own.
Oh,
Yeah, and don't try
absolutely.
to cleanse your own house either.
Mm,
You see that on those shows a lot where, people think that first there always seems like they start out by using a Ouija board. And, there's certain rules if you're going to use that thing, which I've used the Ouija board before, and I do believe that they can do what they're advertised to do.
mm-hmm.
And, don't take your hand off, make sure you close it, say goodbye, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't follow all the rules for the Ouija board. So they have a Ouija board session, and then all of a sudden they're starting to have issues in their homes. And then they'll talk to their friends, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, burn some sage in there, and walk around, and read passages out of the Bible, and throw holy water and all this other stuff." And then of course it gets worse because you don't know what you're
Yeah.
doing, and you're messing with something that you never should have messed with in the first place. And now you've insulted it or angered it or whatever you've done, and now you're calling people going, "Hey, I don't feel safe in my own home anymore. I need help." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Absolutely.
mean, something to keep in mind with all that too. You can have. I do think whenever you're doing any kind of cleansing, it's about intention, but also be aware that it might not work. It might not always work. There are rare cases where it doesn't work, and that's the rough part about all this stuff that we're into is there are some cases where people just have to leave and 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 lose all their money that they invested in a place,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and and abandon it, and it's just so there is it's something I don't talk about a ton because there's already so much media out there that does cover all the darker stuff, darker side of the paranormal.
Hmm.
But it is real. It's not just what you see on TV shows that dramatize everything. No, there's some of that stuff that I don't think it's as common. All the extremely negative, evil stuff is as common as TV tries to tell you it is, but it does exist.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when you were saying something about people who fled with leaving all their stuff behind,
Hmm.
the first thing that pops into my mind is the Lutzes and the Amityville horror.
Yeah, that's a complicated case from what I've
Yes,
heard.
very right.
Um, but yeah, yep.
Yeah, because Ronnie DeFeo, that was the kid who killed his whole family, and
Hmm.
he said that him and his sister or two other people did it and blah 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 and set it up to try to cover their asses or whatever. And then it was, oh, the devil was telling me to do it, and whatever the story may be, you cannot discharge a weapon 6 times at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the other house is right next door to you without somebody hearing that gun go off.
Right.
I'm sorry. There's just that to me is physical evidence that if you really shot that gun, those people, and you saw how close those houses are, right? I mean, it's really just the
Yep.
driveway for that one house, and then there's the next house. You're
Hmm.
talking maybe 20, 30 feet at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to shoot a high powered rifle 6 times and nobody hears it? And why are they all in the same position? Why didn't any of them try to run out of the house? How come there
Yep.
wasn't any evidence of, people, fighting? Nothing. I mean, who would just lay there and be shot in the back of their head while they hear everyone else getting shot? Just waiting their
Yeah.
turn. So there's all those weird idiosyncrasies about that thing that just doesn't make sense because
Yep.
there's parts of it that seem, well, this might be a true story, and then there's other parts of it that go, no, this is a total hoax to make money. But when things like that happen, that is what takes away credibility from the entire phenomena, right?
Yeah.
Automatically, people think you're lying or you're crazy, you know, so people keep their mouth shut.
Yeah. I've heard the whole thing that the claim that the parents made it up, but then there's that whole documentary from, and I think there's other kids have confirmed this too, that there was activity in the house. So, and I think both can be true at the same time. The parents could have exaggerated some things, made some things up for that book that was going to come out. That I forget the author now, but that was about the whole case. But there also could have been paranormal activity, and the fact that families after them claim that there was no activity in the house that when they lived there, that doesn't mean there couldn't have been before.
Right.
It could be a situation of an issue of just different people have different energy. Different people may cause or be more sensitive to these other energies, this paranormal stuff, than others. So to me, I've heard that it said that because the families after had nothing happen to them, then
Hmm.
it was all a hoax. I don't think that really fits. I don't think we can really say that for sure. I'm glad that the families after didn't have anything else happen, but I don't think they can completely rule out some things being real there that happened.
I wonder if it also like the people too. Certain people are more open to seeing and feeling things
Yeah,
than
Hmm.
others are. Especially with specialized paranormal spots and things like that. But yeah, that I don't know. I'm I was sitting there thinking, James, it was kind of like we said a few times now. It's like all above. It's
yeah,
combination of facts. Usually it's not so cut. Life's complicated. Everything, all of it's
yeah,
not cut and dry. It's like, oh, just this way or this way. No, there's a blend of the two. That some of I imagine there was absolutely some paranormal activity. Maybe they seen it as an opportunity to make some money. Hey,
right.
that's the,
Yeah.
that's part of it. But um, and then having the whole trying to get away with it. Saying the devil made me do it. It could have
Hmm.
been something else. And just trying to
Yep.
use such a wild claim to just because out of anger. But the stories. You know the woman talking about how his eyes just turned completely black, and and until after he got done killing them people. And but
Hmm.
it is weird, Uncle David, how he was. They were. They didn't move. I
Right.
don't know. It's an interesting story on all that for sure.
Have you seen the documentary where Ed and Lorraine and Channel 5 News um, in New York City actually went and did a paranormal investigation there? And they had photographers there and trying to think of who this woman was. Um, but one of the photographers took a picture as he came up to the second floor,
Mm-hmm.
and they took that picture with the little boy in the doorway with the glowing eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that
Yep.
photo? Have you ever seen that?
Yep.
And for years it was unexplained, right? Oh no, no. Somebody recently I saw briefly said, "Oh, what that was is that the photographer. That's actually the photographer. He was standing in front of a mirror, and when he took the picture, it came out like that." And it's like the photographer was like 6 foot tall with black hair. This is a kid with lighter colored hair. How
Mm-hmm.
in the world can you even try to explain that that's the photographer? I'm just like, are you so anxious to debunk this and move on, or whatever the case may be, that you're going to come up and some of these excuses they give, you know, to nullify things? They must really just think people are gullible.
Well, some
You
are,
know.
and some are actually gullible, and some of those they'll it's easier. Well, the news told me that it was BS, so it's BS,
Hmm.
and um and so it's so much easier to keep your head in the sand, kind of say, um, when because they're going to say whatever, and the news even says it like as soon as they turn around and anything comes out, they're in such a rush to throw information out now because the way things are, they just
Yeah.
make up stuff just to put it out there.
And
And
I'm sorry. Yeah.
oh, go ahead, James.
And with these kinds of famous cases with Amityville, any number of cases, so much gets put out about that case over time, that it's impossible for one person to take in everything about any given case. And that's sort of why whenever I talk about these things, I don't say, well, this case was obviously this or that. I know what happened there. No, because I'm sure I haven't taken in all the information, all the things that have been published about this case, Amityville or whatever, any case. And there's going to be people that provide evidence that shows that case may be actually paranormal, and there's also going to be people out there that put out evidence that maybe it's not all paranormal. So I don't claim to have any. I don't really have any strong opinions on any of these cases. Because again, going back to that everything is probably happening. The option. I think that's the case, and so I don't. I'm really. I don't want to be to people that think that I know everything about all these things because I really don't. Despite the that title that has been given to me by friends, but yeah,
The paranormal expert of the known universe.
yeah,
Yeah, and that generated that and The Exorcist uh,
hmm
generated so much media attention. You
yeah,
know that it's a movie, so it must not be. And then, of course, they totally ruined it by continuing to make those Amityville movies after that, and each
yeah,
one just became more and more ridiculous. So that just, of course, helped water down the whole situation too, and just threw more mud on top of mud to just make things even more complicated. You know, because now all those movies are just being made for a buck.
yep, yep, agreed. And the whole thing with the all the movies based on the Warrens and all their cases. That's
Yeah,
a whole other thing. Ricky and I talked about that before. There's people that say that they were terrible people, that they, and all kinds of things, and there's people that say no, that's not
Especially
really
Ed.
accurate. Yeah, that's not really accurate, and that's all, you know, made up to discredit them. And I've seen so much on both sides of that I don't really know what they were,
hmm
and so. But the cases that they've covered, I mean, whatever parts of them were real or were not real, they're all just out there now. They're really well known to anyone
right.
that looks into all these things.
But they couldn't have been doing it for money because they never seem to have gotten wealth. They
Yeah, I
lived
don't
in the
know.
same house and all that stuff. I mean, they weren't
Right,
obvious signs of wealth.
right. Yeah, and that's why I don't know. I'm not. I can't say for one way or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
One I'm surprised that people don't talk about more, is Hans Holzer. He
Yes.
did a whole bunch of, date back to, paranormal
Yes.
investigating back in the 50s and stuff like that. And there's lots of, he had, I forget what, hundreds of cases, I think, or something like that. And
And possibly as many books. I know he's got tons of books out there.
yeah,
And yeah, I have read a couple of at least one of his books, and I do like the way he thought about investigations in a way. He was not afraid to bring people that he sort of vetted and researched that seemed to have abilities to make contact with other intelligences that may have been in these places. And so that's a fascinating thing to me. Yeah, he's another one to look into if you want a lot of good nonfiction stuff about the paranormal.
Yeah, I was watching that series they had called The Holzer Files, and they had
Hmm.
his daughter, I believe, as one of the people on the show with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she was given to, it wasn't hearsay. These were things that he had said directly to her
Yep.
and had
Right.
participated in. So, she was a credible witness to what he was doing, right?
Yeah, I
Yep.
watched that the whole series probably 2 or 3 times back to almost like back to back. You know, I really partaked in it because it was different. Um, I know me and my daughter we watched them both. I watched it through the whole thing, and I was like, hey, you need to watch this. And so me and her watched it together, and I think I watched it again since then. You know, I really liked the series. I hate they only did only 2 seasons of it,
Right.
um, but it was
And
very very interesting. You know, some of the stories and stuff like that. You know, he was using mediums way back then, and
Yeah.
I'm just like so surprised, like you know for people who are real into the paranormal kind of world, they know who he is, but he's not as
mhm.
mainstream as you know as the Warrens, of course.
Yeah, well, I think part of that, and this is just me talking out the side of my neck here. You know, he came about not too long after World War II when he really started. And he
Mm-hmm.
became
Hmm.
known or whatever. And I think way too many people associated his last name with the
Hmm.
previous stuff. You
Right.
know,
Could be.
because we all know that was it. Who's the guy in charge of the SS? Was that Himmler?
Yeah, Himmler's one that was all and was really into,
The
and he was
occult.
really into all the paranormal and was looking for um, ancient artifacts and mystical items, and um, it was wild. Some of the stuff he would look into that history. We could do a whole show on that one day.
Oh yeah, that castle that they took over and made as the SS headquarters. There's this one room. I guess when you become an SS soldier, you were brought there for some type of ceremony, and it had all these. I mean, I've seen it on documentaries. I mean, he's got all this occult symbolism all
Mm.
throughout this room and stuff, and that basically, it was like you were joining a cult because
Oh,
Nazis
absolutely.
really didn't have a religion; they weren't Christian or whatever. Um, so he was definitely getting these guys into an occult.
Yeah, he was trying to basically create his own religion and stuff. And then yeah, that one
Yeah.
place had that hole where they they covered it back up and stuff. But yeah, I think he did. Mr. Duffy he kind of modeled it after the Jesuit order. Um, but I was gonna say we got it is
That's what.
almost time for Trouble Minds. There, it won't be long,
Yeah.
Yes,
and
eight
so
fifty nine.
yeah, it's our hitting our 2 hour limit. Um, I was gonna say appreciate you everybody being here. I just don't want to cross over with Trouble Minds.
Yep.
That's gonna be another great show.
What's
Um,
troubled minds?
it's it's a show. They talk about all kinds of different subjects, and then it's a call-in show, kind of like a um. I'm brain farting on
Coast to
it.
coast.
Yeah, coast to coast, where you can
Oh,
call in and just tell your point of view and stuff like that. And
hmm.
he's on radio time, so that you get like a 24-minute segment right there, and then he'll turn around and like, all right, But yeah, we kind of like coast to coast, and he does all kinds of Mr. Strange does all kinds of talk. I'll send you a link to it, um, Uncle David, if you want to watch it some. And like I said, and then
Yeah.
if you want, you can he'll say the phone number in there, and if you find something that's interesting, you want to call in and talk, you can come on and talk, and
Oh, yeah.
it's always a good time. I've called in a bunch of times. James sits in the whole time for the whole show usually, if he's able.
Well, he
Yep.
wants the expert.
Yeah, you got to have the expert,
Yep. Apparently.
He's a universal expert on top of that.
Absolutely. But I appreciate everybody being here. We will have Talking with Conspiracy Wednesday, as always. Next Sunday we will have Beyond the Possible, and then Monday we'll have a special lunch show. So make sure you like and subscribe before you can tune into that. The Rumble chat, we'll be raiding Trouble Minds in just a second. So Mr. Duffy's on both. He's on YouTube and Rumble. I'll get you a YouTube link. Just give me 1 second. Let me get this outro going. Uncle David, thanks for popping in. And,
I apologize for missing the last couple of weeks.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you coming in and talking and adding to the show. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let me hit this outro. Hit our music. I need to do a special outro for this, but everybody enjoys this music, so it's gonna be. Here we go.
Take care, everyone.
Shackles, don't want no shackles on me. Don't want no shackles, don't want no shackles on me. I sit down with Big Brother, don't like those RFIDs. Got the blues about my freedom. Got the blues about tyranny. I got the blues about my freedom. Got the blues about tyranny. I sat down with Big Brother and the national ID. Don't want a chip in my wallet, chip in my car. And if I want to travel, it's nobody's business how far. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I said shame on Big Brother, always tracking and tracing me. Don't want a chip in my mother, chip in my wife, a chip in my babies. Stay out of our life. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sat down with Big Brother. No more slavery. Play it for me, baby. Now, do you want a chip in your forehead, a chip in your arm, always tweaking your brain and causing you harm? Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sit down with Big Brother in the good old USA. I sat down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. Don't want a spy chip in me. Everybody. I said down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. It's all about liberty.